So 3 points that you made, Mohandas Pai, I want you to react to them. Point number one, we are in for a world recession. Everyone's going to go into recession, right? Nobody will be saved. Second point he says is that we are in no position to take advantage of the higher tariffs of Vietnam or China, which are at 46% and 54% respectively.
Arnab, my view is we have to hold on to our opinion for quite some time. There's going to be some confusion. There's going to be uncertainty and volatility for the next 30, 40 days, because we have to understand the background of what President Trump is trying to do. The US has a GDP of $32 trillion. They have a debt of $38 trillion. They have a deficit every year of $2 trillion. That means they're borrowing $2 trillion a year. That means in 4 years, it will be $8 trillion. Debt may go up to $44 trillion. And that is becoming unsustainable. And this year, their interest payment is about $1.2 trillion. Next year, it could be $1.5 trillion. Then next year, the interest payment may be higher than Social Security, which is the highest element of cost for them. They're entering into a very unsustainable fiscal position, driven by high deficits and driven by the fact that the whole world comes and dumps into America, which is the largest market for consumption and which has very low tariff. So what is President Trump trying to do? He's trying to cut back the $7 trillion of spending of the government to dodge. I hope he succeeds and cuts $400-500 billion. So spending should come down. Second, he's trying to close the trade gap for $600-650 billion overall, because on goods he may be having maybe $1 to $1.2 trillion. On services, he has got a surplus. And the biggest source of trade deficit for him is China, about $450-500 billion. Europe, about $350 billion. And then come Mexico and Canada, who are maybe $300 billion totally. And he wants to make sure they buy from the United States and they try to close the trade deficit. And he wants to make sure that whatever the world charges American export, he's going to charge them, because he says, I can't be an open dumping ground. It's all part of a grand strategy to make sure that America bounces back and the economy becomes sounder, because becoming unsustainable, because the high borrowing.
Yeah, but will we be affected?
Let me come to that. So what he has done now is to levy a 10% tax on all imports from all countries. Then he's increased the tariff for all countries based on a formula, total deficit for that country over the export of that country. And for India, it comes to about 56%. That is 52%. That is 26% is what he has charged, because our deficit is only $41 billion for him. Now, this is an opening gambit. And today, the news is very clear. The impact of that has been that the 10-year GSEC rate has fallen to 3.9. I don't know what it is today. And then interest rates may come down. He'll be able to refinance and the cost of borrowing will come down. Petroleum prices have come down. So the cost for the US economy and all consumers is going to come down. And then 55 countries are rung him up and said, we want to negotiate with you. We want to reduce our tariffs. And we want to make sure that we can export you. We don't want to suffer this. They all want to negotiate. And the news that comes out is he may look at pushing it by 50, 60 days. And not for China, for the whole rest of the world. I don't know whether the news is correct or not. And he may try to push it forward and negotiate to bring it down. As far as India is concerned, yes, there'll be an immediate impact in India, because for the export for the next 30, 40 days may face the tariff. But what India should do quickly is to make a deal with America and a free trade agreement whereby we reduce tariff for American goods to come here, and we also get the benefit of lower tariffs to go to America, over and above the 10%, which I think is across for all countries. And by doing that, we should be able to export. Now, like Dr. Malhotra said, will we be able to take advantage? We are not very sure, because we don't have surplus production. Do we have surplus production to the US like China has? Do we have huge capacity? No. China, Vietnam are the same, because the Chinese companies that have gone across the 1,200 kilometers of Vietnam, they send goods across, change the packaging and sell it to the United States. And Vietnam has got a trade surplus of $100 billion with the US. So India will not be able to take advantage in the short term, but the medium to long term, we should be able to take advantage of 15-20% increase in our export. In textiles and garments, we can easily export generic medicine, we can export, and we can do many other things. And as far as oil is concerned, we can import more oil from the US. It'll be a substitution and reduce the deficit. So I think we got to wait for the next 15, 20 days to see how the world reacts. The world is in a state of shock because nobody thought President Trump is going to do that. They thought you can negotiate, carry it forward, and dump in the United States. Now he's fighting back. But I think he's got a plan worked out because because the Japanese Prime Minister says, I'm willing to fly to the US and negotiate with him. I think many countries will negotiate, many countries will bring it down. Vietnam is bringing it down, Israel is bringing it down, Japan will bring it down, and India should bring it down and be very smart. We should allow American EV companies, Tesla, to come to India. It will have a big impact on the EV industry, bring us technology, and expand the market manifold. We got to look at it strategically, just like China saw the United States when they entered into the WTO. That is the time when China started growing very fast to export to the US. This is our opportunity. I don't think it's going to reduce the tariff for China in a big way, but China is a major source of its deficit. So I think we got to watch and wait. It's a very interesting gambit, high risk. So I think we got to see who blinks first. And today I read that the Federal Reserve is called a meeting to look at interest rates. Maybe they will cut down the interest rates. And today I saw just now that the Dow has gone back to green territory, NASDAQ is in green territory. And I think it's a very interesting situation.
Well, I